Hi everybody, it's Jessica and Dave here, your Anderson's agronomy team. Today we are going to talk about late season soybean considerations, heading into that R3 growth stage and how we want to minimize stress to maximize yield.
Soybean stress stresses me out.
It does. And we're going to accomplish minimizing stress in three ways: fungicide, insecticide, and fertilizer. And we touched on all three of these things in our previous podcast. So for a more in-depth look at all three, and how to grow stage soybeans, look at our previous episode, Why R3 is so critical. But for today, we are going to focus on fertilizer and nutrient solutions, starting off with nitrogen.
Yeah, nitrogen is very critical to soybeans. A lot of people don't realize this, but soybeans actually take more nitrogen than corn. It's just that the plant or its bacterial
The
nodules actually produce 80% of the nitrogen. They still have to scavenge that other 20% though, and we just don't want it to
come from the plant.
Yeah, because cannibalization is not good in any species.
And another note about those nodules, if you go into a field and you pull up a soybean plant by the roots, the nodules are those little balls connected to the roots. If you split one open and it's the color of about a medium rare steak, then that means it's fixing nitrogen. If it's gray or anything around that color, that means it's no longer working. And
but that's okay, because
you'll expect that this time of year. There's nothing wrong with it.
They start to wane a little bit at the end of the season. So
right. And also, this time is when you have a heightened need for nitrogen. And to prevent that scavenging for nitrogen from itself or from the ground.
Because nitrogen is highly mobile in the plant.
Right.
So it'll take it from the plant if it needs it up in the seeds.
So the best solution will be to supplement that nitrogen while it needs it the most, to support that grain fill and maximizing that yield.
Yeah, the second most needed nutrient, I believe, in the plant is potassium, especially, well, really, soybeans are hard on potassium all throughout the season, but during seed fill, it really takes a lot of potassium. It's really good for disease resistance, especially this time of year. That's when, like, your frog eye is going to happen, your downy mildew. A lot of diseases start moving into the fields right now.
And we do defend against diseases with the fungicide,
Yep.
But to have the most natural resistance as possible will be by having a healthy plant. And that potassium has that characteristic in the plant, is to help have a more natural defense to diseases.
One way that it does resist disease is that potassium is one of the main nutrients in moving other nutrients up and throughout the plant. And so if we're low on potassium, it's kind of like you low on electrolytes when you're working out.
Right.
You need to keep that fluid moving throughout your body. Same way with the plant. You need to have that sap and nutrients moving throughout the plant.
And just like nitrogen, potassium, the need, like you already said, it increases throughout grain fill and through the remainder of the season. So like we said, and we'll say 1,000 times more, if that crop is stressing for nutrients, then you're stressing the plant out. And we want to minimize that as much as possible during this time.
At this time, during the R3, R4 stage, the use of some couple micronutrients are very critical.
Right.
And it has increased during this stage too. Boron is one of them.
Right. And nitrogen and potassium, those are your macronutrients. But looking at the micros, like you said, boron, it's extremely essential during this time, mainly for the reproductive system.
Yeah, pollination, pollen development, the flower. The boron is very critical at this stage. And the problem with boron is that it's highly immobile in the plant.
Another problem is it needs to be spoon-fed throughout the season, because if you have any bit too much, it can be highly toxic.
Yeah, little is not, or little good, too much is deadly.
Right. So if you want to make sure that we are spoon-feeding that throughout the season to prevent giving it too much at one time.
Right. And so foliar feeding boron a little bit at a time throughout the whole year is really the best way to go about that.
And like we also said, it is immobile, so it's not going to be moving through that soil profile to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Put it where it needs to go with a foliar fertilizer will be the best solution.
The next micronutrient that's really critical is manganese, Mn.
And that one is very essential for our chlorophyll, the chlorophyll production, and the efficiency of your chlorophyll, which are your solar panels in your soybean plant. So if your chlorophyll, your solar panels aren't being efficient, then your soybean plant isn't creating energy that it needs.
Late July and into August, this plant will double in size.
Right.
And so a lot of chlorophyll production is needed to fill out the leaves and to properly process the sunlight. And manganese is critical during that.
To support the rapid growth, both vegetatively and reproductively.
Yeah, some of the Anderson's products that can really help out during this time is Overpass SF.
The Overpass SF, it gives you a complete nutrient package of all of the ones that we've mentioned so far. It's 10-2-10 with 0.5 boron and 0.25 manganese.
It also has 25% slow-release nitrogen.
And that's pretty great because, like we said, with that nitrogen and those nodules no longer being efficient, you get 75% of the nitrogen up front and 25% to carry it through the remainder of the season until harvest.
Yeah, we like to recommend a rate of 1 to 2 gallons around that R3, R4 stage.
And that's perfect because you can apply it piggybacking with your fungicide and your insecticides.
I always like a good piggyback.
We don't like to add more trips across the field than we have to.
The correct recommendation for the Sweet and Easy is 1 to 2 quarts.
Well, I was going to say, if we're adding another one into the tank, let's add some Sweet and Easy, which is going to give that crop a little bit of a quick energy boost to help it finish out that season. Think of it like a Monster energy drink or a coffee to help just give it that little bit that it needs to jumpstart it to help it boost that chlorophyll energy production.
Yeah, we've got trial data that shows a 9 bushel increase when you do apply certain products at a certain time.
And you'll apply that at about 1 to 2 quarts per acre to help finish off that crop, along with your Overpass SF. So that's all we have for you today. If you have any questions about anything we talked about today, feel free to reach out to your Anderson's representative. You can visit andersonsplantnutrient.com or Anderson's Plant Nutrient /agriculture on Facebook. Thank you.